All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and call this regular city council meeting to order. First thing, we're going to have the invocation by Deacon Bob Quinnell from St. Elizabeth's Episcopal, and then we'll have the pledge led by Council Member Dodd.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the opportunity to meet together to find the best ways to promote the safety, health, and well-being of every one of your people who live, work, or play in this city. Help us to discern your will as we consider additions, deletions, modifications, and use of the facilities, ordinances, resolutions, and funds which you have entrusted to our use and care. Keep us ever mindful of the rights and open to the hearing of the opinions of others, be they council members, invited experts, city officials, or general public. And bless us with your peace at the end of the day, and grant us rest and renewal for the day to come. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Jones?
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunn? Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes, here.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Dixon? Here. Councilmember Dodd?
Here.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Council, are there any agenda modifications? Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add the emergency purchase of batteries for the golf course and make it under new business, make it E, and then make discussion on evaluations F.
Council, we have any issues with that? What number was it? Under new? What number did we say?
12, it would be E, under new business.
We have something at E already, but
Yeah, we'll make that F,
yeah.
so 12E.
All right. Any further additions or modifications? Hearing none. Next thing on our agenda is proclamations. I have one proclamation tonight for the Treasure Coast Society Children of the American Revolution for the NSCAR National Day of Service for April 5th, 2023. Whereas the National Society of Children of American Revolution is the nation's oldest and largest youth organization, founded April 5th, 1895. And whereas the National Society focuses on patriotism, service, and education about our American heritage. And whereas the Treasure Coast Society is active in our local community, promoting this vision to the residents of our city and surrounding community. And whereas on April 5th, the Treasure Coast Society will be honoring our veterans by cleaning and polishing the Four Chaplains Monument, which is located at Riverview Park with the Eternal Flame. The preservation of this monument is instrumental in reminding us that even though we may be of different faiths, we are united in our pursuit of life, liberty, and freedom given to us by our military servicemen and women. Now, therefore, I, Fred Jones, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Sebastian, Florida, do hereby proclaim the city of Sebastian strongly supports the ideas and objectives of the National and Treasure Coast Society of the Children of the American Revolution. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the great city of Sebastian to be affixed this 22nd day of March, 2023.
Okay, ready.
Tre- The Treasure Coast Society, Children of the American Revolution, would like to thank you for recognizing the National Society, Children of the American Revolution's 3rd Annual National Day of Service for April 5th. The Children of the American Revolution was founded on April 5th, 1995, to instill patriotic values in the youth of America. The CAR trains good citizens, develops leaders, and promotes love of the United States of America and its heritage among the young people. It is led by members who are between the ages of 0 and 21 years of age. This year, our society will be cleaning the 4th Chaplain's Memorial and the Veterans Memorial at Rearview Park in Sebastian. One of our state's projects has been giving dog tags to Vietnam veterans that say welcome home and raising funds for Florida Veterans Foundation, earmarked for programs and support for Vietnam veterans. Thank you again for recognizing our organization's National Day of Service and Children of the American Revolution. We appreciate you and support of our community initiatives.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you all so much for that. Next, I believe we have a presentation, Fiscal Year 2022 Comprehensive Annual Report. Good evening.
What a great job she just did. It takes a lot of courage to get up here and speak in front of an audience, in front of a camera, so what a great way to start off a young life anyways. My name's Ross Gotherman. I'm the audit principal with Raymond, responsible for performing the audited financial statements for you for the year ending September 30th, 2022. So you have 3 reports in front of you. I'll just take a few minutes to kind of just tell you what each one represents, what it's involved. A lot of information in there, and as I always offer, I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one to go through it. There's a lot of information in there, so let me just give you a quick overview of what's in there. The biggest report by far, 160 or 70 pages, is called the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. It used to be called the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, but they changed that last year for various reasons. But anyways, now it's referred to as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And it's comprehensive because it's far more detailed than what is just required for a governmental entity. The state of Florida just requires you to prepare what are called general purpose financial statements. These comprehensive statements have a lot more information in them than are required as far as a minimum, and therefore really provide a lot more transparency and accountability. So the city voluntarily elects to prepare the CAFR, or the Annual Financial Report, and does that on their own accord. So it's not required, but it is like I said, it's the purpose of it is to provide transparency and more accountability. So the report is basically made up of 4 sections. There's an introductory section, our financial section, statistical section, and internal controls. A couple of things to point out in the financial section is our audit report, the highest level of assurance that we can give as a CPA firm that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with the accounting standards. So that's the good news that you want to hear. Also included in that financial section is what's called an MD&A, Management Discussion and Analysis. It's about a 15, 20-page summary of the year's highlights and information. So if nothing else, I think it starts on about page 20 or so, and it's a really nice, just a recap of the year's activities. Then the statistical section, which is back starting on about page 100 or so and goes about 50 pages long, is a nice, some 10-year analysis of various data that you may find interesting. So spend some time looking in that statistical section. And then the last section is the internal controls and compliance section. There's 2 reports back there that that indicate the city is in compliance with Florida statute and complies in all material respect with internal controls as well. So that's the big report, the annual comprehensive financial statements. You also have what's called a single audit. So the city receives federal and state money. If you expend more than $750,000, you're required to have an additional audit on those grants specific. It's outside the scope of the financial statements, so it's additional testing specific to the grant compliance to make sure that the city was in compliance with those grant expenditures. This year, typically you have a federal single audit because you spend more than $750,000. This year, you have both the federal and the state of Florida. So the federal and the state both have a little bit of different requirements. They're both combined in this report, and again, the bottom line is the city complied with that. It's called a CFA, a Schedule of Federal Expenditures and Awards. You spent about, federally, you had about $1.2 million. The biggest part was from the U.S. Department of Transportation, as I'm sure you're aware, for the airport, and then there was just short of $500,000 for COVID relief funds. From the federal government and from the state, you had $2.5 million from the Florida Department of Transportation, again for the airport renovations and over there. Again, the report indicates that you've complied with the grants. There was no findings of non-compliance, and the report is what you would expect. The last report you have, a few years ago, the state of Florida, for some reason, decided that all community redevelopment agencies with more than $150,000 in them had to have a separate standalone report. It's already included in your annual report, but so it's a separate audit just for that fund, and it reports the activity for your riverfront community redevelopment agency. Again, the report in there is the highest level of assurance that we can give you that everything's properly reported and accounted for. That's the quick overview I wanted to give you. You're presenting it tonight. I think you may formally approve them, and then we'll make sure they all get submitted to the proper authorities. I'd also like to thank Ken and his staff. I think I said this last year, perhaps, that the one thing we look at is the tone at the top to make sure that when we come out to do our audit, the team is ready for us. They have the information that we need, are willing to answer our questions, provide information to us when we need it. We don't get a runaround. We don't get, yes, we'll have that for you next week, and then try to make up a story. Starting with your city manager all the way down, they want to make sure things are done properly and accounted for correctly as well. So we appreciate the cooperation that they provide us. And again, anything that we ask for, that we request, we're provided in a reasonable time and in a complete fashion as well. So I want to thank the staff as well. If you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I'm obviously, like I said, be happy to meet with you one-on-one if there's any questions. But all good news being reported.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Where are we at? You have any? You don't have anything? Ken, do you have anything to add? Nothing? All right, so...
lot to digest.
No, that's fine. We've had the opportunity to go through it,
Yep.
so, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
I don't think
Always available. Any questions come up, happy to do that. So thank you very much for your evening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So much. All right, so, council, what's your pleasure? Anyone? Motion to accept?
I move motion to accept.
Yeah.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Dodd, second by
Mr. Mayor, if you're going to do a motion to accept, we haven't had any public comment on this.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you, Andrew. That's what I was getting at earlier, I think. So we have a motion and a second. So is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
All right, hearing none, public input is closed. Now, we have a motion, second. Any discussion from council? Hearing none, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda are the brief announcements, and Councilmember Dixon will read those announcements for us.
Okay. Friday, March 24th is the Chamber of Commerce Concert in the Park, featuring Professor Pettigood's Mighty Flea Circus. It's from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, and the way the weather's been, it'll be great. Saturday, March 25th is the Sebastian River Art Club Show in Riverview Park from 10 to 3. And Friday, April 7th, Leisure Services Annual Easter Event begins at 6 with Meet the Easter Bunny for photos. Easter egg hunt starts promptly at 7:15. And the Sebastian Police Department will have a movie showing Peter Rabbit at 7:45. This is all at Riverview Park.
All right, thank you so much for that, Councilmember Dixon. Now we're going to move on to the next item, which is public input. This part of public input is anything that's not currently on the agenda. So if anyone would like to speak about something or inform us about something that's not currently on the agenda, please step forward. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
All right, public input's closed. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. I'd like to pull items C and D only to put more information in the public so they understand what we're talking about. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of items 8A, B, E, and F.
All right, second? All right.
Second.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. All right, so any other discussion on that? Is there money on any of those? I believe so. Yes, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion
All right, the first item that was pulled is item C. I'd like for the attorney to read the description on that, and then we'll have Mr. Carlisle and the staff talk a little bit. We're going to go through that procedure on this.
Item 8C.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Attachment E7 Resolution for Assistance 2023 under the Florida Inland Navigation District Waterways Assistance Program, North County Marine Law Enforcement Facility. Recommendation is to approve Attachment E7 Resolution for Assistance 2023 under the Florida Inland Navigation District Waterways Assistance Program, North County Marine Law Enforcement Facility.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Carlisle, let's shed some light on that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Ms. Frazier and Mr. Jerzyk, Bill Jerzyk, have been working on this grant. This is the docks at the Sheriff's Department and the Sebastian PD use are no longer available. So they have to move out. So right now they're dry docked, they're on trailers. So we're working with the Florida Inland Navigation District to go to one of the twin piers and put a secure facility at the end of the pier for the FWC, for sheriffs, and for our PD boat. And the FWC has pledged up to $25,000, and the Sheriff's Department, they didn't give them a number, but they're pledging money to help cover the match. So we'd ask you to approve the grant application for $100,000 for the Florida Inland Navigation Waterways Assistance Program.
All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
All right, you have anything final on that, Mr. Carlisle?
No, that's all I have unless you
All
have
right,
additional questions.
any council member?
The boats don't do them any good in dry dock.
That's right.
So I think it's a great thing that we're doing this, and I'll move approval.
Yeah, and I would second that, and obviously, I pulled this because I want everybody to know that all of our boats are getting pushed out everywhere. We have a similar situation with our commercial fishermen as well, and we're going to talk about something to deal with that, but we need those law enforcement boats to be in the water and ready to go. There's no sense in wasting 30, 40 minutes, you know, so this would be a great thing. Those docks have not been used for a long time, and the only time they use it is when we have the law enforcement day at the park, and the you know, we at Coast Guard, FWC, and all the other ones, they park over there, but this is going to be a permanent spot for them so that they can go wherever they need to, north, south, or straight out to the ocean. So this is great for us here in the city. That's all I have. Anyone else? Nope. All right, let's call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, the next item that was pulled was item 8D. Mr. Attorney?
Item 8D, Attachment E7 Resolution for Assistance 2023 under the Florida Inland Navigation District Waterways Assistance Program, Working Waterfront Extension. Recommendation is to approve Attachment E7 Resolution for Assistance 2023 under the Florida Inland Navigation District Waterways Assistance Program, Working Waterfront Extension.
All right, Mr. Carlisle?
And again, this is a grant, as we talked about earlier, the commercial fishing boats are getting pushed out of the private docks, and they're not having any place to park and unload their fish and do business. So, Ms. Frazier and I met with Joe Schulke to start the planning process when this grant came available. This is part one of two grants. This grant's gonna help us do the planning and permitting. We would not have time to get it permitted and by the time that we would be able to spend all the money by September. So phase one is getting all the planning and permitting, the seagrass analysis, the design, and all that done, and then we can submit plans to find. And they're really enthusiastic. I was there Thursday night with the find group and talked to them, and they're really enthusiastic about both of these projects. So we'd ask you to approve this grant application for $120,000 for the planning and permitting of the working waterfront Fisherman's Landing dock.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Hearing none, do we have anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
All right, any final words from you or any member of your staff, Mr. Carlisle?
Unless you have any other additional questions.
No, council?
This also includes the clam.
This doesn't.
It's not the clam nursery that's moving also?
No, they're not moving over there yet. We're going to, and Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to extend that ag land lease, that submerged land lease, or agricultural submerged land lease on the south side. We're going to reestablish that. Okay. So if he has to move over there, we'd be able to accommodate some of that. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's what I like about that, because if we get that, expand that, if they get pushed out, the aquaculture industry is what I'm talking about. If they get pushed out, we'll have a place to put them and to help make our river sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Now, and anything that, you know, keeps our fishing village charm and actually working in the industry is good with me.
All right. And do we have a motion already?
No.
No? Okay.
I'll make one. I move approval.
We have a motion by Councilmember Dodd.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dixon. And no other discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
All right, next item on our...
Mr. Mayor, did you take public comment for that item?
Yes.
Okay.
I did,
All right,
both on and Zoom as well, so,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. All right, what do we have? The next item on our agenda is committee reports. Anyone have any committee reports? I know I recently, just on Monday, had the Beach and Shoreline Committee meeting. The county is fighting with residents in Zone 7 for the renourishment of the beach, and they can't get enough, so enough support from the residents over there to put sand back on the beach. So that's some of the things that's going on the beach. But the county has finished up all their beach renourishment projects as of now because turtle nesting season has just started. So there may be some work done on the dunes, but they will have to make sure that those areas are checked and that there's no turtle nest within 50 feet of where they're going to be planting or anything like that. So that's what's happening with our beach and shores here in the county. No other?
Just as a quick, Mr. Carlisle and I were in Tallahassee last week to try to get some information on some bills that are being considered there. There are a lot of, when I say a lot, there's 10 or 15 measures that are really hurting cities if they pass. Financial issues, home rule issues. One of those, for example, the partisan election issue that they're raising is going to cost us, the city of Sebastian, about $160,000 a year to run elections because they're going to require that we have primaries. And we don't have those today. We pay $3 a registered voter to vote. So there's a lot of stuff being done. If anybody out there is interested, go to the Florida League of Cities website and you can see the information on these bills. And if you can get the name of your legislator, and you can write letters, you can send emails, do something about it, because they seem to be on a mad dash path to try to make the cities suffer at their behest. So it's important that we keep up on that. And I think the three of us, the mayor and myself and Mr. Carlisle, are going to go back up next week and meet with the Florida League of Cities people. Are you going also?
April 3rd. Yeah, we're going
April
up
3rd,
the 3rd. Yeah.
we're gonna go up and meet with some, through the Florida League of Cities with some additional people and try to get some sense talked into them, but we'll see if that works.
Yeah, and on that, what you were talking about, if that passes, we're gonna have to change our charter to be in compliance with the new state law.
We have to have an emergency charter change
Yep.
to support that, and then we're gonna be running primaries for city council in the city of Sebastian.
On the League of Cities call today, were you on it?
Yes.
They talked about it would have to go to referendum in '24.
Yeah.
In
So it
24?
It wouldn't affect anything this year.
Yeah, but we would still have to change it, right? So.
Yeah, we'd still have to.
We would have to do a referendum in '24.
Yeah, and the problem, the way they've changed some of the legislation around referendums, we have to be very careful how we address those. We no longer as elected officials can politic for people to vote one way or another on a referendum. So it's really difficult the way they've done that to make it difficult to deal with that. So those things can be very dramatic, so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, yes, sir. Anyone else? All right, next item on our agenda is the Planning and Zoning Commission. Fill one expired regular position. And I would say that we move Susan LaRusso from current alternate to the regular member position. And then we'd need to appoint somebody for the alternate.
Okay.
All right, so we'll do one at a time. So is anybody else other than Susan moving up to the permanent regular position?
No.
Vice Mayor Nunn, what did you say? I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I was saying, and I second that idea.
Okay, all right, so we're good, we have a second, no other? All right, we'll just call the vote on that, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
And now we need to appoint an alternate, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move Cindy Geesey up to the alternate position.
Cindy Geesey. Is there anyone else from anyone?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Terry McGinn.
Who?
Terry McGinn.
Okay. All right, any others? All right, so we have Cindy Geesey and Terry McGinn.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we waive the notification and advertising requirements for the alternate position prior to the appointment of someone in there.
Okay.
So I think that requires a vote to waive that.
Okay.
Second that.
On the second, is that what we need?
Yeah, need a second and a vote. It's just waiving the requirement that the clerk advertise this in the paper and so forth.
All right, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
All right, so we need to call the vote on that.
Yeah, need a call vote on that.
Madam Clerk?
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, now the two members. That's the only two we have? It's just the two? All right, so, Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Terry McGinn.
Councilmember Dixon?
Terry McGinn.
Councilmember Dodd?
Cindy Geesey.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Cindy Geesey.
And Mayor Jones?
Cindy Geesey.
Okay, Ms. Geesey is the appointee.
All right. All right, next thing we have is a public hearing, item 10A. 10A. Mr. Mai.
A resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, providing for an annexation agreement between the City of Sebastian, Florida, Florida Municipal Corporation, and the Graves Brothers Company to memorialize the parties' understanding and agreements with respect to the annexation of 2,044 acres, more or less, into the city, and with respect to the future development and use of the property, providing for conflicts, providing for recording, providing for scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Staff?
Yeah, Mayor and members of council, this is the resolution that adopts an annexation agreement that provides for the mixed-use requirements for the Graves Brothers property, and it's also contains the future land use conditions in that resolution. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Frazier, and she can.
Thank you, Council. This is a similar document as you have looked at previously, and it contains the agreement between the landowner and the city in regard to the future development of this particular property. The resolution memorializes that agreement and is tied to the ordinance that will bring in the land in an annexation. And staff requests your approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes, sir, come on up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council members. My name is Graham Cox. I live at 1213 George Street in Sebastian. Why does this feel like Groundhog Day or deja vu all over again? It's something we seem to be doing on a regular basis. In the last year, 4 environmental groups, local environmental groups, have issued several joint statements on the proposed Graves Brothers annexation to the city of Sebastian. We have been and still are critical of the city of Sebastian and Graves Brothers for not preparing a detailed plan for the 2,000 acres proposed to be annexed to the city. Instead, you've chosen to put off the real land use decisions to some future date, and instead of taking charge of tough land use decisions, you've handed the planning initiative to the landowner. The environmental groups argue that there should be a plan, a great plan, a master plan, a plan based upon community input and collaboration with local and state agencies. One that protects the headwaters of the St. Sebastian River, provides for known residential capacities, provides smart growth development patterns, meets LID or low impact development standards, provides for open space locations and community amenities. Should be a plan that allows us to accurately calculate just how many homes, how much commercial space, how many daily traffic trips to expect on County Route 510 and 512. The 4 environmental groups are greatly concerned about the annexation's future impact in our community, the city of Sebastian, and the impact on Indian River County as a whole, on our water supply, sewage treatment system, on our roads, our parks, and other public facilities. It's common for large development projects with the capability of changing the character of a community to utilize professional consultants to develop a collaborative process by collecting input from citizens, advocacy groups, and other government entities. Such a process is happening in Alachua County, where a 4,000-acre tract of land is being master planned to include significant open space, central water and sewer systems, a new University of Florida golf course, and a possible solar power project. The landowner has engaged CHW consultants to guide the process for developing the master plan before it seeks its development entitlements. This example shows that the Graves Brothers annexation and land use change could work, but good luck finding out from Sebastian officials what their annexed property will look like as a final developed project. The narrative of a 10,000-foot view is the common refrain. It was made abundantly clear at the workshops held by the City Council that they don't know what the development process or the development will look like because there's no plan. They do not know the impacts, social, economic, and environmental, because there's no plan with any substance we can work with. What most municipalities understand is you don't give away community development entitlements, that's tough to say, without knowing what you're getting in return. There's nothing wrong with the landowner making money, but there's something wrong with a jurisdiction that heaps huge financial windfalls without securing the necessary exactions or safeguards to protect current residents. We're urging the city to draft a strong annexation agreement that protects our quality of life and our pocketbooks before you pass the resolution that you have before you tonight. We want to see a land use plan that conserves large areas of open space to protect the headwaters of the St. Sebastian River, which run through the property. It should be a no-brainer to require a significant buffer. Likewise, on requiring functional open space, not the open space you get when you just count backyards, front yards, and swale ditches. There should be a commitment to provide affordable housing, at least 10% of the residents, not some squishy 5 or 10% maybe. The four groups are trying to ensure that growth is done in a way that protects our natural environment while providing a significant number of affordable housing units. Finally, we want a real planning process open to broad community input. We urge city and county residents, if they're listening and they're watching, to pay attention to what is proposed, to contact your public officials in Sebastian and the County Commission to let them know your concerns about this proposed annexation. It could be a profound, unwelcome effect on our city and county if not done to the highest social, economic, and environmental standards and without meaningful public involvement. And I have just one suggestion at the end of this, because you're going to say he's negative all over again.
Yeah, 5 seconds, sir.
Can you follow the example that you created when you created the Integrated Pest Management Subcommittee and appoint 3 members from planning, 3 from natural resources, 1 from county planning, 1 from the conservation NGOs, 1 from the Chamber of Commerce, and make sure they follow the sunshine laws and charge them with safeguarding the interests of city residents? Make it clear they can bring in expert
All right, sir, your
witnesses
time is up.
from the
Thank
county
you.
and
You
from
can leave
regional
that with
planning.
us if you
Thank
want.
you.
We'll have a copy of it. Thank you so much. Next.
Good evening. Hello.
Hey,
Tim
how are
Glover. I'm president of Friends of St. Sebastian River, and we have been working to provide constructive input on this proposed annexation since the first considered by the council last May. It has never been our expectation that this property will not be developed considering the demise of the citrus industry in our county. The property owners have the right to pursue options that will bring them the greatest value for their property, excuse me, but they should also have the expectation of the requirement, and the city should avail itself of every opportunity to provide to protect sensitive natural resources and maximize the overall benefit of the adjoining communities. One of the first recommendations was to encourage the city to employ the services of a planning consultant. We believe utilizing the expertise of such a consultant would provide numerous benefits and result in the best outcome for the community. This has certainly been done successfully around the state, for which we, the Indian River Neighborhood Association and the Pelican Island Audubon Society, have provided examples and references. In our discussions with Jeff Bass, president of the Grays Brothers Company, he stated that his vision for the property to be developed in an environmentally friendly manner. The land development regulations for the city of Sebastian are a minimum standard, and site-specific policies were considered at the October 12, 2022 council meeting as part of the land use change proposal, following approval of the annexation of this property. These policies included some important and favorable provisions which have now been removed. We have repeatedly provided details about what we believe are minimum considerations for development of an environmentally friendly manner. None of our suggestions seem to have received any serious consideration and have not been addressed in the final version of the agreement. We believe that our suggestions are reasonable and appropriate to provide the assurances that any future development should be required to comply with. We've also been disappointed not to see the city nor council acknowledge or appreciate that the annexation is a legislative process, providing an ability to negotiate almost any reasonable provisions it feels are important for protection of the environment and benefit to the community. The question has been asked, why here, why now, why us? Our response would be, why not? It should be apparent that the status quo is not working. The Indian River Lagoon is experiencing an environmental crisis, and most of the St. Sebastian River is listed as impaired by the EPA and does not meet state water quality standards as fishable and swimmable. If it is the intention of the city to protect the community and our environment from further harm and degradation, now is the only time you have the opportunity to require something different. Comments have been made that most of what we have been suggesting are issues that will be handled at the planning stage. At that stage, the city lacks the authority and, in fact, would expose itself to litigation if it is desired to require anything above the minimum standards provided in its development regulations. So we once again implore you to seize the opportunity afforded only at this phase to require appropriate protections and assurances that will be required by anyone developing the property for the overall benefit of the current and future residents of Sebastian before granting a huge windfall that benefits only the property owner. These assurances still include protection of the headwaters of the St. Sebastian River with our proposed 115-acre conservation area and the requirement for of 50% greater stormwater retention capacity. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
We have one member of the public on Zoom.
Okay, bring them in.
Mr. Stadelman, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you for, this is Charles Stadelman. I'm calling in on the Zoom as a private citizen, City of Sebastian, even though a lot of this has been worked on. And I'd like to thank the council for bringing this very important issue up how you have. A lot of the requests by the environmental groups are very valid. Studies will be done, issues will be raised, and questions will be answered. So far, I don't believe the City of Sebastian is really in a position to do any of that until they actually do annex it through this resolution. And I'd also like to remind everybody that a lot of the questions that you're asking really have been answered. They were answered about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, when we were doing the City of Sebastian Comprehensive Plan 2040. And then in that plan, many citizens of Sebastian, of Indian River County, of Brevard County even, came in and worked on everything from issues of livability, land use, housing, infrastructure, parks and rec, and of course, the Sebastian River. The Sebastian River, as it sits there now, is basically a dry basin that runs into a marshy land. It's not what it used to be. But a lot of these questions have been answered. The living spaces with green areas and interconnectivity, the low impact development, the greenways, 50% green space. A lot of these questions are answered there. We just don't have access to 2,000, almost 500 acres. And it's going to be a good test for what we had signed up for. And I do thank the council for bringing this very important issue to the City of Sebastian. I do look forward to addressing any questions that come up as a private citizen and in service to Sebastian. And I look forward to working with everybody, environmental groups, everybody. But look at the comprehensive plan for 2040. I think you'll be greatly enthused about what we've already done, and it can be changed. And that's about all I have to say on that. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, time is up. Just kidding. Go ahead, Terry. Name for the record, sir.
My name's Terry McGinn, Miller Drive, Sebastian. I'd like to start by saying that I got a new smartwatch about a month ago, and as soon as this subject came up and the people started to the microphone, my heartbeat went up 10 more points. I'd like to be able to give the speech that I just heard because I think I know it by heart. I've been watching this for 3 years, but that's not why I'm here to speak. The City of Sebastian is being nibbled away on its edges, including North Indian River Drive, where there are 2 developments, Pelican Bay and Buccaneer. The south side, where there's about to be a 98-story hotel on 2.7 acres, which in my calculation says there will be 0 impervious land and nothing but cars and parking lots draining into the lagoon. Just below, then we had the Big Yellow Banana that was developed, which is a 3-story edifice, which is an extended care facility that has 0 space except for the parking lot. And as you go down, and then if you start down Route 510, at the rotary, at the intersection of 66 and 510, which is supposed to be the worst traffic situation in North County,
They've approved a 7-Eleven of 5,000 square feet with 14 gas pumps and a car wash and 71 homes on 40 acres. If you continue down Route 510 on the east side, there are 5 developments, and they've all been approved by the county. They're all going to use water. They all drain into the Sebastian River, all the way to Blue Wave and past Blue Wave, the other 2 40-acre developments. I followed the South Prong, and Charles Stadelman was right. It really ends in a dry marsh. I haven't seen in 4 years any of the 4. By the way, we have these 4 people who come to the meeting, but you never see 100 people from their group or 80 people. You see 4 people. They've lost their mission. Their mission. I joined the Pelican Audubon Society, and they have a mission, and attacking Sebastian really isn't the mission. So, in closing, I'd like to say, if we had annexed more property sooner, we wouldn't have Pelican Bay Buccaneer, the 98-story hotel, the Yellow Banana, and all of the other, and the whole east side of 510, which has already been approved for development. And so, asking us to give up on the 2,000 acres is really a sad commentary. And that's what I have to say.
All right, thank you so much for that, sir. All right, I believe we're going public input is going to be closed. Staff, do you have final?
No, thank you, Council. Thank you for your reconsideration of this resolution, and we still recommend approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dodd?
Okay, Terry, I just want to make sure it's not 98 stories, it's 13 4-story buildings. I don't want people to panic. We're going to have a Taj Mahal built over there on the river, so.
Yeah, 98 rooms, that's what he's talking about.
Okay. I do want to frame this, okay? Now, Mrs. Fraser said we have a document that is substantially the same. Are there any changes between this annexation agreement and the one that we read and approved prior to this?
My sincere apologies, sir. No, this is the
okay. I just want to make sure that
same
now,
executed document from
right.
February 8th.
Thank you.
I do apologize. Yes.
And I think it's important that we set the framework because I agree 100% with the Groundhog Day analogy I just heard. This is Groundhog Day. Shortly after we approved all 3 of these entities, the 4th District Court of Appeals made a ruling in another case that basically said that it is improper for an elected body, like a city council, to continue an action like these to a date specific without re-notifying it. That's not the practice that's been done in the state for a long, long time. But in response to that 4th DCA ruling, our attorneys, both Manny Anand, who was our city attorney at the time, and our outside attorney, recommended that we renotice this and we rehear it just to make sure that in the long run we don't get caught in the middle of this. We're not bringing this back because we want to. We're bringing it back because of an action by the 4th District Court of Appeals. Now, there is legislation currently in Tallahassee to, I can't say overrule, but to make that DCA opinion not important because there's legislation up there to basically say that it's okay under state statutes for an elected body to continue an effort to a date certain without re-notifying it. So, but that'll take care of that. This is the same annexation that we've already approved. All 3 of these documents are the same annexation we've already approved. And so for all intents and purposes, it's been approved. This isn't a new approval on this. This is a mechanical exercise for legal reasons to make sure that at some point in time in the future we don't get caught between a rock and a hard place if the 4th DCA's opinion stands in law, and they make it retroactive, which is the big key to that. If they actually make it retroactive, they could get us on this particular thing. So that's the reason that it's being done there. I have all the sympathy in the world for the groups that are coming against this. and have all of this, I've read all of their letters. I don't disagree with a lot of the stuff that's in there. I do disagree that the city of Sebastian doesn't know what they're doing, and that's the tone in a lot of that. We have qualified people on our staff, and we've had qualified people look at this. We've had qualified outside attorneys look at this. I don't believe that we're going to do any more damage to the St. Sebastian River or to the ecology of this environment than is being done by those subdivisions that Mr. McCann talked about, or that's being done by other stuff that's being done along the river, or that's being done by the 10,000 septic tanks in the Sebastian Highlands that we can't get the county utility to assist us in doing away with. Okay, if you want to talk about the impact on the environment, don't talk about one daisy field, talk about the whole thing and what needs to be done. The greatest impact on the Indian River Lagoon right now in the North County are the 10,000 septic tanks in Sebastian Highlands and the 144 septic tanks with drain fields within 50 yards of the river. That's the greatest problem, the greatest impact on the river in this part of the county. And so if we want to attack those things, I would love to have the environmental groups assist us in trying to get that done. I would love to have that. I would be more than willing to work with the environmental groups in trying to get that done. I'm just not convinced that we are as inept as some of the people in those groups believe that we are, and that we're not going to be capable of handling this. So Mr. Mayor, move approval of Resolution R2234.
You have a motion by Councilmember Dodd. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Dixon. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, did we call for public input?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we had
did.
it. We had it.
Okay.
Yeah, I went through it, so.
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. I'm putting glasses back on. I can't see right now. All right. Next item we have is item 10B, second reading. Mr. Mai.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, providing for the voluntary annexation for land consisting of 2,044.3 acres, more or less, located south of the north boundary of County Road 510 right-of-way, west of the lands adjacent to the 74th Avenue right-of-way, north of the 69th Street right-of-way, and east of the 90th Avenue right-of-way, providing for the extension of the corporate limits and boundaries thereof, providing for interim land use and zoning classification, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mai. Staff, Mr. Carlisle, your staff.
Yeah, Mayor, members of council, as you know, this is the annexation. This is the voluntary annexation document. This ordinance, on its second reading, if adopted, brings that Graves Brothers property into the city of Sebastian. And I'm going to let Ms. Frazier go into any particulars that you might need to have. Not much more to say other than that, but.
Thank you, council. This is the exact same document that you reviewed and approved on February 8th, 2023. And it is a petition for voluntary annexation into the city of 2,044 acres, and staff supports it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
I know you guys are just doing this for technical reasons, so I'm not going to go into the speech that you heard last time. My name is George Glenn Jr. I'm an attorney. I represent City of Sebastian residents Donna Halloran and Graham Cox. I also represent this Pelican Island Audubon Society, who holds real property interest within the City of Sebastian. We believe that the annexation ordinance has issues with the requirements of Florida statutes, and that is all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on this? All right, do we have anyone on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
All right, public input's closed. Staff summation, final words?
We don't have anything else to add unless you have pertinent
Nope.
questions for myself
All
or
right.
Ms. Frazier.
All right, we're going to close this hearing. Council, any deliberation or motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number O-22-07.
Second. We have a motion second. Any other discussion? Call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Dodd? Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon? Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, very good. Next item on our agenda is item 10C. Mr. Mai.
An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida relating to the comprehensive plan, amending the future land use map by establishing a land use classification of MU, mixed use, for annexed land with a prior county land use designation of AG1, agricultural, on property consisting of 1,913.6 acres, more or less located south of County Road 510, west of lands adjacent to 74th Avenue, north of 69th Street, and east of 90th Avenue. Amending the land use element with site-specific policies, authorizing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability and interpretation, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, this future land use map set some of the priorities and some of the constraints on how the property is developed, and it helps provide for a true mixed-use development. I'll let Ms. Frazier go over the particulars on submitting this up to DEO and response times and the dates and timing of all that.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Frazier?
Thank you. Yes, as stated, this is a request to change the land use from a county ag use to the City of Sebastian's mixed use on the 1,913 plus or minus acres. This was presented, our mixed use land use was presented to the LPA, and they unanimously recommended site-specific policy text changes as well as the change in the future land use map. We believe that the text changes that will be incorporated into our comprehensive plan meet the recommendations of the city and will help guide the future development of this property. Since this is a large-scale land use amendment, we will be sending it back up to the Department of Economic Opportunity after adoption for their final review, 30 days hence. Once they receive it, if it is not challenged, then it will come into effect. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item?
Thank you. George Glenn, attorney for Donna Halloran and Graham Cox, City of Sebastian residents, as well as Pelican Island Audubon Society, who holds real property interest within the city limits. We have concerns with an internal inconsistency, potentially with policy number 1-1.4.1, agriculture land use designation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else? Do we have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom.
All right, public input's closed. Staff, do you have any final? Nope.
No, sir.
This hearing is closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question that I'm curious about. Since 30 days after the original submittal of this ordinance would be pretty close to now, was the state notified that we were going to re-advertise and rehear this, considering the first one is completely legal at this point? I'm just curious what effect that has on this process.
I don't even know what you said. Mr. Carlisle, you understanding?
No, because we didn't submit it, because technically what we passed was null and void. So this is just like we did it now. So from the time of this adoption is when that 30 days kicks in.
Right.
That is correct. So I would have had to have submitted the adopted ordinance within 10 days of the meeting, but within one day, I believe, we determined that we would have to have done this over again a second time, and so we did not submit it. We are not in arrears with DEO at this point. We will submit it within 10 days of this, should you choose to adopt this evening.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Well, we need a motion.
Did
Mr.
we
Mayor,
vote?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number O-22-13.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion second. I'm like, whatever.
We'll
right
keep
now.
you straight.
Deja vu.
I thought we had already made this motion, so.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah, that's what it is. It must be. All right, so now we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item number 10D, quasi-judicial public hearing on Resolution R23-06. This hearing is now open. Mr. Mai.
A resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, approving a special use permit pursuant to Land Development Code, Section 54-2-3.1, for a car wash facility to be located at 1979 U.S. Highway 1 within the Riverfront Overlay District's CR Commercial Riverfront Zoning District, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date, and providing for an expiration date.
All right, thank you so much. Council, does anyone have any ex parte communication with the applicant or client?
No, sir.
No.
Vice Mayor Nunn? Are you there?
No, yes, no ex parte, no communication.
No escargot, what do you say?
He's having dinner.
Oh, I don't hear too good, so sorry. All right, all of those that's going to testify in this, please. Madam Clerk is going to read the oath to you.
Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and the factual representation which you are about to give or present during this public hearing will be truthful and accurate? Thank you.
All right. Now, the applicant, if you would come forward and make your presentation, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jonathan Barquette. I'm an attorney with Collins Brown Barquette here in Indian River County, and we represent the applicant-driven brands for the Take 5 Express Car Wash project here in Sebastian. With me tonight are Delbert Renfro from Driven Brands and our engineers Jason Sheridan and Drew Barclay. They're going to handle the presentation tonight, but we'll all be available for any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, or evening. Will the presentation be uploaded or?
Did you give it to someone to put it up?
Yeah, it was a portion of the previous presentation from the,
P&Z.
Well, they have to know about it for this meeting, though. I mean, you may have had it for that meeting, but maybe they could pull it up. Let's see.
yeah, it was resent last night. Well, the presentation was for a little over
Hang on,
1
we're
acre
gonna see. I
site.
think we got something coming
Yeah?
here.
Okay.
Take 5, it's up there, okay.
Don't touch my stuff.
Need some tech support there?
Yeah. Good evening. I'm Jason Sheridan, civil engineer with Pannoni Associates. This is Dell with Driven Brands, and presenting the proposed approval for the special use.
Speak up a little bit, I can't hear you.
For the special use approval for the site at 1979 US 1. The site is located to the south of the Walmart Supercenter, directly adjacent to US 1, just north of Jackson Street. And site access will be From the existing Walmart access easement to the north, the 3 direct driveways to the site are going to be removed and maintain the driveway to the southwest shown. Also maintain our, to the south, access to Jackson Street, and to the northeast, access to US 1. The site layout will provide 18 queuing spaces, 9 parking stalls, 18 vacuum stalls, and utilities are currently serving the site: water, sewer, stormwater, and power. The site also uses a recycled water system. About 60 to 80% of the water is recycled, which will cut down on demand as well as the discharge to the sewer system. The architectural facade will comply with the riverfront overlay districts. And a couple comments from the staff report was that the car washes are going to be a little saturated in the area. But again, express car washes don't really compete with the self-service car washes shown and listed in the staff report. And a highlighted section is the primary location for a car wash would be located near a Walmart, commercial area, a strip mall, or on a main thoroughfare, which we hit all 3 of those criteria. Again, there's car wash provides about 150 vehicles a day, as shown bold in the top bullet, about 4,500 vehicles per month. And it is located directly adjacent to an arterial corridor, US 1, which serves about 22,600 vehicles a day. It was also noted that the city of Sebastian also has a population of about 25,600. So that's almost traveling through that, across that frontage every day. So that's about 0.67% of the vehicles traveling through US 1, and about 3% of the total monthly visits to Walmart will be supplied by the car wash. And there's a graphic of the population draw to that Walmart, which you can see reaches well outside of the city of Sebastian limits. And the graphical view, the table view, shows about 39,000 vehicle trips per month to that Walmart. And one other piece of information that recently came out was the, I guess, the approval process that Walmart has over the site. This is a list of permitted uses in the commercial riverfront zoning district. Stricken in red is the deed restrictions that Walmart will not provide or allow, and in black are uses that the lot size will not support. And we also received an email recently that they had shut down tire stores, auto repairs, auto parts sales, pharmacies and drugstores, eyeglasses. There is a list of uses that Walmart specifically denied, which is part of the reason that the site's been vacant for so long. One of them that they approved is the car wash. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much for that, sir. Council, you have any questions of, from the applicant or staff? All right, you can be seated, sir. All right, staff.
Good evening, excuse me. Good evening, council. I'll get this.
You okay, Dory?
I was fine this afternoon. Thank you. At this time, we would like to enter, I'm so sorry, I'm losing my voice. I was fine this afternoon. At this time, we would like to admit into the record the staff report, the exhibits, the P&Z Commission minutes, and the agenda materials that are part of their packet. These were the same materials that were given to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is an acre site. It is not adjacent to residential. With regards to the site plan issues, those will be those will be looked at through during the site plan process. The uniqueness with this is that the proximity to an existing car wash and a car wash that's being processed through the county That was Exhibit B that we gave you to verify that there is a car wash directly across the street from this at the county. Last Friday, I did verify with the county that that was still an ongoing application. It had not been withdrawn. And they said they did receive some questions from the applicant regarding architectural. So that is a site plan for another car wash that will be kitty corner from this site for that. That is still in existence. Staff report, we have gone over that with regards to, we've given you some information on how close the other car washes will be. And we've offered you some questions for consideration regarding this. We've also given you a little site history to the site. We were unaware that Walmart has had a big part in playing to get that World Savings Bank to be an ongoing existing site again. But we're becoming aware that they have had a big decision on what uses would be allowed in that. And so, yes, it does seem that we don't want that building to stay empty any longer. But the consideration for council would be is, do we want this area so saturated with car washes? We have also, with regards to elevations, the elevations that was in their presentation, that was in their Exhibit A, would not meet the overlay district requirements. But I believe their last page of their PowerPoint is more of a design that we'll be looking for again during their site plan presentation. The only other thing I wanted to offer was that when this was part of your packet on February 22nd, there was a resolution, proposed resolution in there. Because this item was not tabled, it was withdrawn, and we have rescheduled it for today. After consideration and looking at if this car wash is approved, we have added a third condition of approval in your resolution that is different from the resolution that you saw with your February 22nd packet. It was regarding the trees. In their packet, the site, if you're aware of the site, you visit Walmart, it has some beautiful oak trees around that site. And I believe with what they've presented, we should be able to save most of those, but we'd like to make that a requirement that their trees and the trees that are on the Walmart site are protected, that we can keep a lot of those cabbage palms and the oak trees there with their site plan. With that, staff, request that you consider the items that we presented, and we're available for any other questions.
All right, thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions of staff? All right,
Yeah,
Mr. Dodd.
if I may, Mr. Mayor, the Riverfront Overlay District, you've referenced in your recommendations that that the architectural rendering be revised to meet the design and color criteria of the overlay district, but we're not referencing other overlay district requirements such as landscaping and so forth. Do we need to reference those in this?
Well, I think only because we had received a conceptual site plan and conceptual elevations, a landscape plan to meet code will be required as part of the site plan application. They'll have to meet code, but by the time it goes to planning and zoning, we just wanted, because they had presented this initial elevation to you, we wanted to let you know that it did not meet code. I think working with Mr. Sheridan, he's already mentioned that they will certainly work with us on getting that building, but it was a condition of approval that we just wanted to make you aware of.
Okay, and stormwater retention, I've noticed that there's nothing on the little bit of stuff I've seen for on-site stormwater retention. Is there an intent for them to use the stormwater pond that Walmart has adjacent to this property?
So the World Savings Bank does have their own site, does have their own stormwater. It is not that stormwater pond is not a master stormwater pond for any of the properties, just for the Walmart property.
Okay. So
we've discussed that also. Now, if they have enough capacity in that pond and they get the approval from Walmart and there's an easement for the pipe that would have to go over there, that can be looked at part of the site plan.
So that has to be approved by Walmart and by St. John's
Yes.
Water Management District, and
Yes.
that would be done at site plan time.
Yes, and if there was no approval from Walmart or St. John's, stormwater will have to be on their site specific. Now, it can be an underground exfiltration type of system, but they'll have to treat and keep their water on their own site.
Okay. And this might be a question for our attorney, but if we do a special use permit, if we approve this special use permit, that approval is for this applicant, not necessarily to go with the land. Is that correct? Or am I incorrect in that?
The special use permit would go with the land.
Okay. So can we tie it to the applicant? I mean, one of the things about special use permits is we seem to have gotten caught in the past where we would do a special use permit and then the property changes hands 3 times and we're stuck with somebody else wanting to do the same thing. It's one thing to say this car wash is reasonable, it fits in the Walmart model. I know there's a lot of car washes, and I really don't understand how all of you guys decided to build in Sebastian in the same month. But, and there's just not enough capacity here. We are going to put out of business 3 local companies because there's going to be 4 big car washes that have the same advantages you guys have. I'm not saying that we should tell you no, because I don't think the council should be the selector in winners and losers in business. That's your problem. But we are going to put out some local guys that don't have car washes that are equivalent to what you've got. And so the question is that I wouldn't want to authorize a special use and then have your company decide they want to sell their rights to this property to Joe Blow and let Joe Blow come in and argue about he can put his own car wash in with his gigantic, instead of the Mr. Clean, it might be Mr. Peanut that he puts up, or something. So
if you look at the resolution under section 2, which includes special conditions, it is specific to Driven Brands to construct and operate a wash facility at this location.
Okay, all right, so we're good with that then.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, Mr. Dodd, we did put an expiration date in there for 5 years. If you'd like to adjust that and make it less, or adjust that so that a site plan has to be submitted at a certain time.
Okay.
I think that section of the resolution could be.
And is that in that's in the resolution, the 5-year time frame?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I didn't see that, but that's okay. All right. Those were my questions on this. And like I said, I'm not one who believes the government could choose and pick winners and losers in business environment. That's up to the business guys. They put their money up, they assume the risk. And then if it falls apart, they have a problem. If they don't fall apart, they don't have a problem. But I do know that, I just personally don't understand how come all of a sudden Sebastian is the favorite place in the world to put car washes. It's kind of like I didn't understand why we had all the auto parts stores built, but they seem to all be doing business, so maybe all these guys can do businesses too.
For consideration, and Lisa and I talked about this today, at this point, whether they're built or not, Sebastian would have granted 5 special use permits for car washes. At this time, it may be consideration that we want to add it as a permitted or conditional use to our zoning districts so that we do have a little bit of control in where we want them. So we could add them as a conditional use, setting up some conditional use criteria in commercial limited or only in CG, not in our commercial riverfront zoning district.
I would love to see that come from the P&Z, because that's the way that would have to go. The P&Z would have to approve that and bring it forward to the council. So it would be a real service to everybody if that could be brought to the P&Z and it could be limited from out of the riverfront commercial and into other commercial general areas maybe, or something like that. Because, I would much rather see the riverfront commercial have a new bar than a new car wash, or a new boutique rather than a new car wash. But I can't vote against this just because I don't think they need to be there. That's just not my role in life. So, okay.
Right.
Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Anyone else? All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to open up the floor to anyone in favor of this request in the chambers. Do we have anyone on Zoom that's in favor?
No one has raised their hand.
Okay, that portion is closed. We're going to now open the floor for anyone opposing this request. Please step forward. Hearing none, do we have anyone on Zoom opposing?
No one on Zoom.
All right, applicant, you had an opportunity to respond to any issues or give us a last statement. If not, you're fine. Okay. You good? All right, thank you. Staff, you go ahead and summarize for us, please.
A staff requests that you review the staff materials and consider either approving or denying, or approving with conditions, the special use permit.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if the motion is to approve, I would recommend that you include their presentation and all testimony as part of the record.
Right, okay. All right, council, do you have any deliberations? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of Resolution R-23-06 with the 3 conditions and all the testimony that's happened.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second. Any other comments? Vice Mayor, you there? Are you hearing all of this?
Yeah. Yes, I would. And I would like to say something if I could.
Yes, sir.
For the record, I know I would not like to see another car wash in Sebastian, but I would also like to see a building that's been open and empty for over 12 years to be replaced with something that can benefit our community and benefit the city. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. No other discussion?
Again, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I don't understand all the car wash thing, but I think this is the perfect spot for the car wash. Again, that World Bank has been, I can't even remember the last time they accepted anything. It's just been an eyesore. So and it's right next to the gas station, right next to Walmart. Again, I haven't washed my car in about 7 years, but, you know, that's all I gotta say.
He's not asking for free coupons.
Right. It won't work either.
Yeah.
World Bank was even an eyesore when it was open.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Nunn,
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon,
I'm just gonna go with no.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
and Mayor Jones.
No.
Okay, the motion carries.
All right, next item. What do we have next here? Where am I at, Mr. Dodd?
New business.
You're on,
Waste Management Franchise?
12A.
12A.
Okay,
All right.
there it is.
Mr. Mayor, before you start 12A.
Oh, hang on, let me get to that on the page here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so there's, we have 12A is the next item up. Mr. Dodd, you have something?
Yes, I do. Mr. Mayor, I move that we reconsider the vote on RFP 2207 from our March 8th meeting of 2023, and that we bring it back for reconsideration.
I second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, call the vote, Madam Clerk.
Public comment.
Oh, public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on that? Thank you, I keep forgetting that. Do we have anyone on Zoom who would like to speak on this item?
No one has raised their hand.
All right, very well. Roll call.
Councilmember Dixon,
Hold on, I'm trying to catch up here. What are we doing?
Okay, what I'm doing is, and I've got some
Recall
additional
the vote.
information I want to cover after the reconsideration is brought forward. I want to reconsider the vote that we took on the waste management contract, on the waste management RFP at the last meeting, and bring it forward and give us an opportunity to redebate and rediscuss that.
The whole thing?
The whole thing,
Ooh.
yes.
Tonight or at a future meeting?
My next thing after I do this is I'm going to make an explanation as to why I want to do it, and I'm going to make a motion that we table all 3 of these items until our next meeting, and I'll explain why I want to do that at that point in time.
I think I know why. Okay.
So,
Okay. Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
Mayor Jones,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor Nunn.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right,
Okay. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
next item, Mr. Dodd.
Okay. I don't want to call it hindsight or retrospect or whatever, but it's turned out that we cannot transfer the collection of our mandatory fees to the tax collector's office until October 2024. And what that means is that the city is going to be in a position to have to collect the revenue from the citizens for the tax collection for 15 months. During that 15 months, the city is going to be responsible for bad debt collection, bad debts. Mm-hmm. And if I just take this, at the discussion that we had with Waste Management our last meeting, they have approximately a 17% non-payment process. Mm-hmm. And at the universal proposal at one collection a week for 1945, that 1945 equates on 10,000 houses, and in reality, there's 12,400. I think I asked Ken, and he gave me that number today, so it's much higher. That equates to $194,500 a month. If we have a 17% non-pay rate, that means that the city is on the hook for $33,065 each month of the 15 months, which is about $495,000 over 15 months. I personally think that the non-pay rate is going to be higher than that because that's 17% of the people who sign up for subscriptions. Now, all of these people who are not wanting the subscription are more likely to not pay, and I think we're going to have a non-pay rate probably of 25% on this. When I found this out this week, it just became apparent to me that we can't afford to lose $495,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 on this process. I talked to Mr. Carlisle earlier today, and we haven't had an opportunity to carry on any other conversations, but I'm intending to move that we table the recalled item as well as item 10A 1 and 2 until our next meeting to give him an opportunity to discuss with Waste Management what options might be available. As an example, are they willing at the $27 rate to do subscription service for 15 months and then move to universal on October 1 of 2024? Is there something we can do? I mean, is it going to cost us an extra $70,000 in incentives to get that done, which is much better than $400,000 or $500,000? It's relatively simple. This $500,000+, we're never going to get this money. We can lien this property if they don't pay, but we're not going to collect those liens. We have a very bad record collecting liens right now. We're not going to collect those liens. They're roughly $500 a house, and even for non-homesteaded property that we could foreclose on, the cost of foreclosure is greater than $500. So we're eventually going to forgive this $500,000 to $600,000 worth of bad debts, and that comes out of our cash flow. Period. It comes straight out of our cash flow, which, for all intents and purposes, comes out of our reserves, which comes out of our general revenue, which means that in October, when Mr. Carlisle comes forward and says, I need 4 more people, we're going to have to say no. Or we're going to have to raise taxes. An increase in ad valorem taxes to make up $500,000 is relatively stiff. Ken's thinking, but he's not shaking his head yet, but it's not something I want to propose that we do. So my proposal is that we, and I'll make the motion, I move that we table the reconsideration of the approval of RFP 2207 from March 8, 2023, and item, I guess that's
12A.
Item 12A 1 and 2. To our next meeting, and that we direct Mr. Carlisle to carry on conversations with Waste Management about options that might be available.
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
If I can, you can't table the first reading. Well, I guess you can because that wasn't advertised. We didn't advertise.
Okay.
We did?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, not only that, though, we'd have to hire a new full-time employee on top of the other money that Mr. Dodd is talking about. And we'd also have to get a billing program because we don't have programs like that. Is that correct, Mr. Carlisle?
Well, I've got the tax collector. It says he can do the billing. Even Waste Management said they can do the billing for us. And we are looking at some billing companies to do billing. There's just no way for us to manage that. But the tax collector said that he can work on getting or Jordan said he can work on doing the special assessment billing from July through October of 2024.
But there's a fee to do that also.
There is
on
a fee
top
to
of
do
that.
that.
So we're going to be paying a fee for that. If we hire outside collection aid, outside billing service, there's going to be a fee to do that billing. So quite frankly, this information wasn't available when we made this decision on March the 8th. And so if it had been available, I'm not so sure that I would have voted the way I did. And since I voted in the affirmative, that's why I proposed to bring it back. And I would like to table this and give Mr. Carlisle an opportunity to carry on some conversation with Waste Management and see if there isn't something that we can do, and then before we rehear this.
Right, and that billing is 2%, right?
So currently, what we pay on our stormwater fee billing to the tax collector is 2%. But this, he hasn't worked up a price on being able to do this, 14 months.
Okay. Ms. Dixon, go ahead.
I was just saying, so we have not officially signed the contract.
Right, we have agreed, if I understand it correct, we've agreed, and I'll let the attorney address this one.
Yeah, we don't have a signed contract. The direction at the last meeting was to have the manager go out and negotiate a contract with Waste Management. And before you today is the ordinance, which has not been approved by this board. So at this point in time, what you did was, there was a motion by Councilmember Dixon and seconded by Vice Mayor Nunn to approve universal pickup for a once-a-week service and direct the city manager to draft up the enacting ordinance and agreement with Waste Management.
Okay.
So it required additional approvals, which you haven't given.
Okay.
Okay, so we're okay with this.
Good.
So I have we've approved the reconsideration of the RFP 2207 from March 8th, and now I move that we table that reconsideration and item 12A1 and 2 until our next meeting, unless, I think we should expedite it, so until our next meeting, and let Mr. Carlisle have some conversation with Waste Management.
Yes, sir. I'm there.
Yeah, we need to make decisions quickly so we don't end up like South where they didn't get their garbage picked up.
Yeah. Mr. Carlisle, are you clear? You understand, right?
I do.
All right, very good.
We'll need a vote on that.
All right, there you go. So we have the motion and the second, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, call the...
I would suggest public comment.
There you go. Thank you so much. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? None? We have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
We have 2 members of the public on Zoom.
No members or 2?
2.
Oh. Okay, bring the first one in.
Mr. Mason, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. My name is Mark Mason. I'm a resident of Sebastian. First off, to say that I'm extremely disheartened by the position that the city took regarding the waste management contract. The contract was given to the city in December of 2022 to review. It's now March 22nd, 2023, and as of before, you were making a vote on that, which is now stopped. You've had this proposal since December, and it was first discussed in February at the council meeting. I believe it was held off for such a long time, and not all the residents got a full input on this contract. In the February City Council meeting, it was decided to have a workshop to get the residents' opinion for this looming increase in garbage pickup. On March 6th, 2 workshop meetings were set up at 1 and 5, kind of an opportune time for families who work 9 to 5. I spoke at the 5 o'clock meeting and voiced my opinion on the waste management contract. Nowhere in the contract were we getting new garbage trucks. Nowhere did it list a franchise fee, and that it went into the general fund of the city. It didn't also elaborate on the 3% that could be raised for 7 years to equal 21%. The word universal was mentioned quite a bit in the contract. However, the word mandatory was not mentioned as to push people to the cheaper rate. But to this day, I can guarantee you most residents are unaware that it's universal means it's mandatory and that it's on their tax bills. Mr. Dodd stated at the end of the March 6th meeting, he was unsure of the vote, and Mr. McPartland, who wanted to hold off on the vote with the county and Fellsmere to negotiate power with all 3 entities, which makes a lot of sense. Mr. Dodd then suggested he was not comfortable on voting and we should get more answers and more input from the public. The following day, I was informed that a poll taking place on an online newspaper took place. The Sebastian Daily sent out emails to subscribers narrowing the actual Sebastian residents to the pool down due to people not subscribing to that website, which skewed the numbers. The city of Sebastian posted those numbers, which show universal overwhelming. How can you use an online newspaper to collect important data which affects the entire city and a small select audience? The poll was inaccurate. Nowhere in this poll did it discuss the word mandatory and losing your choice for garbage pickup. People who did not people who did see this misleading poll only fixated on the lowest price, and that's why Universal came up out on top. The city should have overseen the polling for this important decision, not an online newspaper. On Wednesday, March 8th, the city of Sebastian held a city council meeting. Once the meeting was started, I thought that this agenda was going to be pulled by Mr. Dodd's comments on the 6th, but Mr. Dodd also said that he was opposed to mandatory regulations and has made his point very clear on several occasions. Waste management vote came up again for subscription, and that was turned down. The second vote took place for Universal, didn't say mandated, at which time Mr. Dodd took a recess and he was deciding to vote. When he returned to the seat, he said he met with a representative from Waste Management and he decided to go to Universal Plan. It seemed kind of odd to me, him being so towards not mandating and then having one conversation with Waste Management and not changing. So I already have canceled my auto pay for Waste Management. I received a bill that I'm not going to pay. I'll take my garbage to the dump. This is also going to affect the residents' escrow accounts, which you guys already mentioned. If the city is anticipating complaints on Waste Management, I think we're definitely going with the wrong garbage company. So we're also discussing on hiring somebody to handle all these complaints, which is a contract manager, which we can spend up to $50,000 with pay and benefits, which I think is a bit excessive. I think we should blow the phones up at Waste Management and complain to them, let them correct the issues. Why do we need to spend needless money on this position? At this point, I hope it's not too late for change to happen. We have an election coming up in November, which 3 members are up for election. I think this would be a perfect time to add the waste management contract to the ballot, allowing residents to have a legitimate vote, not go off an online poll, and let the members of the community vote their opinion. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Next person, please.
Ms. Coy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Andrea Coy, City of Sebastian. Very interesting that this contract has caused so much chatter and dissent amongst council members and the public specifically. I recall 10 years ago when the contract was initially negotiated with Waste Management, and I believe Bob McPartland, Councilmember McPartland, was in on that also. We had lots and lots of time. How come this just showed up? It's not like we didn't know this contract was going to run out. We had plenty of time to get this discussed in a reasonable fashion and also put out to bid. Now, when it was put out to bid, it wasn't put out to bid as a universal contract. So that's probably why Waste Pro didn't get in on the deal. As a subscription service, it was kind of in the bag that Waste Management had the contract and would probably continue. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done. I'm not sure how you got to this point. It seems to be a real mess, and I think it just was communication issues and untimely contract negotiations. And by the way, Waste Management lobbied all of us as council members. I remember having discussions at Florida League of Cities with Waste Management and other times. So it doesn't have to be just the city manager negotiating this contract. You all can ask them, what are our options? Get involved here. That's why we voted you into office. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have anyone else?
That is all.
All right, thank you so much for that. Public input's closed now. Public input's closed. Anyone have any deliberations up here? We have the motion.
And a second.
And a second? All right, good. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Dodd? Yes. Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon? Yes, the motion carries.
All right, council, the next item on our agenda is 12B.
Mr. Mayor, can we
sorry.
take a break? Can we take 5?
All right, we're going to be in recess for 5 minutes so everyone can go get some water, do whatever. Thank you. All right, we're back in session. Next item on our agenda is item number 12B. Mr. Mai.
A resolution of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, recognizing certain adjustments to the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending September 30th, 2023, as provided for in Exhibit A, providing for conflicts, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Kilgore.
This is our normal routine of presenting to the City Council that what our financial status is at the end of the previous quarter. Being the first quarter of the year, it's almost too soon to make any presumptions. We did have the Budget Committee review the report and approve the report at last Monday's meeting on the March 13th. They had some good discussion, but the resolution itself, just says that we are amending the current year budget. And I give you as an attachment to that, or an exhibit on the resolution, all the adjustments that were done. Most of those have been approved by the City Council in one fashion or the other during the first quarter. We're not submitting any in addition to those. And there was one adjustment by the city manager. Actually, on page 364 of your packets is where I give a summary of the general fund, show all the major categories of revenue and the expenditures of each department. It can be seen on there that the revenue was high, higher than the 25% target, mostly because of ad valorem taxes being collected in the first quarter. On the expense side, City Clerk's office had the election costs, so she's slightly over the 25%. The non-departmental includes those expenditures that we would make in the first quarter for insurance, our insurance premiums that are due, and also the CRA contribution from the general fund is made in the first quarter. On the bottom right side of that, I show you a forecast of the general fund, basically with the assumption that all the revenues that we budgeted will come in and all the expenditures that were appropriated will come in. So it's pretty close to what we estimated going into the year that would be the ending general fund balance this year. On page 365, I give you the stormwater fund, the golf course fund, airport fund, and building fund summaries. There again, first quarter, there's not much to be concerned or excited about. The following pages give a lot of detail on all the other funds of the city, as well as some of the more detail on the general fund department expenditures. On page 372, there's a capital project status report that we provide. There again, first quarter doesn't have anything worthy of note, I don't think. And then on page 373, the investment report. As we all know, the interest rates are rising, so we are doing better on our accounts for cash management. We have, on December 1st, we made the last payment on the paving improvements note, so that's the end of our long-term debt at this point. So we're in a very good credit position as far as any financial needs, and the interfund loans report is also provided just to keep track of those loans between funds. The balance of the report that I provide is a summation given from each department of their activities during the quarter. That's That's all I had, really, and should you have any questions, I'd be glad to respond. Okay.
I was gonna ask about the paving thing. We're on track, right? I thought I read something with the repavement of the roads and stuff under that.
Yeah, we've got our 6-year plan, and we've got it in, and we're reviewing the final steps of that to bring it to you all to put that paving plan in motion.
And those are the numbers that included on, I think it was 365, was it, Ken, where the pavement was? Yeah.
Right on page 372 of your packets.
Oh, yeah.
It does reflect the road improvement monies that were budgeted out of the American Recovery Funds and the allocation from the local option gas tax towards paving.
All right, good. Thank you. Council, anyone have any questions? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Do we have anyone with their hands raised on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Staff, do you have a final, or are you good with whatever you presented, Mr. Kilgore?
Okay.
All right, we're good there. All right, this public side is closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
Move approval.
Second.
You have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to highlight on, page 375 of our document, I always like to look at the police department volunteers, and for the quarter, they did about 2,400 hours. And, over the course of a year, that works out to about 5 full-time employees. So kudos to the volunteers and everything that they do for the city.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for recognizing them like that. All right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you.
All right, fine. We're going to move on to item C, approve the piggyback purchase of playground equipment. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, this has been approved also by the Parks and Rec Board, and it's to replace the playground equipment at Easy Street in Filbert Park using the Manatee County School Board's contract and Omni Partners cooperative contract for those playground equipment in the amount of $102,474.08.
All right, thank you. Any questions from council?
Yeah, this is coming out of the long-term capital improvement fund. This is not the funds that sorry?
This is not park impact fee. This is the...
Right, this is the capital improvement fund.
Correct.
Project, right? Okay.
All right, any other questions?
No.
Anybody from the public who would like to speak on this? Anyone on Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom.
All right, public input's closed. I'm sure if you wanted to say something, Vice Mayor, you would chime in, correct?
Yes, sir. I actually would like to say something.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second?
No.
No?
I move approval of item 12C.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This is great though, because these parks are really, it's a big draw in the city, and this equipment is really nice.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wish my kids were smaller. Filbert
Right.
Street Park looks like a lot of fun. Well,
Right.
it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I may have to go play in the park myself. Okay.
Yeah.
I just ask the community keeps it nice.
Yeah. We did public input, correct?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, I can't hear him that well, so go ahead, Vice Mayor, you have a comment?
Yeah, I would like to mention, I know people talk about the parks and talk about how important they are. And I know Filbert Street Park has been down for a while, and I know I've talked to Mr. Benton a lot about the parks. It's important to know that not only are these parks being rebuilt with new safe equipment, they're also incorporating some handicap inclusive features into these parks. So they're not just ADA accessible, they're actually usable by kids that need them, special swings and things. So this is a great expense at a very, very high value to the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next item is item 12D, is in Delta. Authorize the city manager to notify the Florida Department of Transportation to proceed with the textured pattern. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this project was bid and the price came in $36,673.50, higher than what they projected, which we will have to send to them. This is for the US 1 corridor for the parking, for the crosswalks from Davis Street to Harrison Street. So we asked approval to expend those additional funds from what the bid came in from the projected funding.
And do they have a guaranteed price on this?
That's their bid. It could come in a little bit less if the square footage is less, but it's a square footage price.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know whether their change order policy and so forth is like.
So it's pay for measure, so they do best guess, they do surveys, but the final product that's paid for is by the square foot or square yard.
This is FDOT, so.
That is FDOT.
All right, thank you so much for that. Any other questions?
My only one would be is, we have any idea how long it will last before it gets repaved and has to be done again?
So, so this isn't like stamped concrete or stamped asphalt that you have to paint everything. This is actually of resin. And, more than 10 years, those that have been out there, I think, are over 10 years old. They're probably 12 years old. And they still don't look that bad. They're just reshaping the road, so they have to take them out.
Yeah, the only place that's really aged badly is in the turn lanes, like on 512. That's in pretty bad shape, but, yeah, the parking spaces don't seem to be that bad.
It's the turning movement.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments? All right, let's call for motion then.
Public comment? Public comment?
Public comment.
Input.
Really? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? Is there anyone on Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom.
Thank you. All right, now we'll call for a motion. Not hearing so well tonight, man, I'm telling you.
And this is only for the additional $36,000. We've already approved the base amount.
Correct.
So all we're approving tonight is $36,673.50.
Correct.
I move approval.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second?
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
And Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is item 12E, discuss charter officers' evaluations.
No, we got to do the batteries.
What?
Batteries.
Oh, I'm sorry. EF. I moved it to F, which was after E, so.
I thought you changed E is the new one, golf carts, the thing.
I said, okay, we'll move it up now. Let's go. The emergency purchase order for the batteries, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mayor, just prior to COVID, we had about 20 golf carts batteries were replaced under warranty. And then we put all these, during the whole COVID, we put all the golf carts in single use, in other words, single rider cars, which really stressed them out. The other 60 cars were out of warranty, and we replaced those batteries under the COVID money. But the batteries that were replaced prior to COVID are starting to fail, and they're leaving people stranded. And we need these 20 cars to operate the golf course, so we had to get these batteries in, and they got them in on Monday, and I think they've got most of them in, and carts out back running. But it's just they were all replaced about the same time, so they all failed about the same time. So we need to get those batteries replaced. So I'd like you to approve the emergency purchase order for, the golf cart battery for $16,316.40.
All right, that's good. Any questions?
Does this include the maintenance that are you absorbing the cost to do the maintenance on the carts that are broken?
So as they, like the front ends are doing, we're taking that as bits and pieces, but it doesn't reach that 15,000 mark. So there's gonna be funds, but as we put them in, we're documenting everything we do to each one of those carts. So when we go to sell them, we can get the higher premium for the ones we sell.
Yeah.
So
I just want to make sure
they did 28 cart repairs, or they're doing 28 cart repairs this week.
But you know, each of those cart repairs doesn't have a $15,000 limit. That would be a total project with 15,000. You're saying it doesn't exceed that?
No, because like we will, like I might put tires on.
Yeah,
I might put a front end on, or I might have to put brakes on.
All right, yeah, okay, all right. That sounds good. So we're gonna get additional carts beyond these back on the course because you're gonna do the repairs on some carts that are broken down, okay?
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, I believe a lot of those have already been taken over to be repaired, is that correct?
28
Waiting
of
for the
them.
batteries that need to be put in the other ones.
28 of them, 20 of them need batteries, and 8 of them need front end alignments. We put new tires on them, but they needed to align the front ends.
Okay.
Right.
Which is not a cost, it's a.
All right, very good. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Do we have anyone on Zoom?
There is no one on Zoom.
All right, hearing none, public input's closed. Council, what's your pleasure?
I just know I've received many emails over the last couple months. I mean, this is the busiest time of year for our golf course, so I'm glad to see that we're finally getting things on the straight and narrow here, working.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments?
Did Councilmember Dixon make a motion?
I thought she was
I
going.
thought she was gonna make a motion too, but I don't know, I'm not sure.
I can make a motion. I'm looking for the number right now.
There's no number.
There is no number, so I just motion to approve the extra money of $16,316.40 for golf course cart batteries.
The emergency purchase of replacement.
Emergency purchase, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, now we move on to item 12E, discuss charter officers' evaluation.
Can I say something before we start that?
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't wanna get involved in the evaluation process. This is separate from that, okay?
Right.
There was a lot of confusion that came out in our last meeting when we approved that new policy, and I just kinda wanna address that before we get involved in evaluations, okay? There's some important dates here. In reality, part of what was being said was true, and part of what was being said was kind of misconstrued a little bit, but the first date is 10/1/2022. That's the effective date of the salary increases based on the salary study and based on the union contracts that apply to, hopefully, to all of our union employees and to the exempt employees, including the charter officers. And they will be effective on 10/1/22. Those salary increases are under their current existing contracts, okay? In February 23, the council approved the new charter officer evaluation process, and that means that the current contracts that the charter officers have are out of sync with that new process. So there have to be changes made to those contracts to put them in sync with that process. I don't know that any of the charter officers have expressed any issues with doing that, so I don't think there's any issues with doing that. And then, as part of that evaluation, part of that new process, and what this basically means is that when we approve that change in the evaluation and salary increase process for charter officers, it was slightly inconsistent with their current contracts, but as part of that, we directed the mayor to execute new contracts to make it consistent with that. And that we then agreed that in March of 2023, we would do evaluations under the charter officers. I've done mine. I haven't covered it with them yet. I'm assuming the rest of you, I don't know if you've covered them with them or not, or done them, but I think one has. I'm ready to do that and go over that. And then because of the timing considerations, I was originally hopeful we could do it in March, but it's probably going to be April before the mayor gets through the process of changing the contracts. There's two steps that have to take place now. One of those is the evaluation process for the charter officers. And as I read this agenda item, that's what this is covering. The other one is that the council needs to, and we probably need to do this at our next meeting, the council needs to provide some input and direction to the mayor on the new contracts, on things that they feel like they would like to see in the new contracts. That's not, that's not part of the negotiation. That's just the council saying to the mayor, as you go through this contract evaluation, here's some considerations and things we'd like to see you consider in that. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that Vice Mayor Nunn was correct in saying that resolution was not in sync with the current contracts. However, there was never an intent to not redo the contracts to make them in sync with that resolution. And I think that's an appropriate step for us to take, is to do that. And we do that. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions about this. I just wanted to make sure it was clear, because Vice Mayor Nunn and I had kind of a back and forth conversation about that, and I want to make sure that everybody understood that there was truths and non-truths, both sides of that whole process that went, and I kind of wanted to lay it out a little bit. So.
All right. Yeah, that's great. I am done with my evaluations. I haven't gone over them yet with them, but I agree that the next meeting we should bring it back, and that should give me plenty of opportunity. I don't know about others, to speak with the charter officers and go over their evaluations with them, but I am ready to start that sometime, hopefully before the next meeting. I'll have that done.
All right. So I just wanted to cover that. So now I'm ready to do what this agenda item is.
I was sensitive to the contract change because I've dealt with a bait and switch before with a contract, so I don't want to do that to anybody else. So this was.
There was never any intent in all this to be punitive to anybody. The intent was that there was a sense and then a consensus among the council that we wanted to make the charter officers, especially from the evaluation process and from the salary increase process, more attuned to the council than to the union contract.
Right.
And so that's what that whole process was it puts the council in a position to be determining salary increases for the charter officers on an annualized basis. I would assume, personally, and it's something we have to talk about, that whatever salary increase we might determine based on the evaluation is for October of this year. It's not anything retroactive. It's a salary increase that they would receive on October of this year. And that in 24, we will go back to the April, May, July timeframe for the evaluations and all that kind of stuff. But because we had to get the contracts in sync with the new procedure, then we kind of rushed that this year a little bit. So, that's something we can talk about when we get to that point.
That's fine with me, but so what are we discussing on this? Are you up, Mr. McPartland?
Well, I guess here I am. Is this what I understood is we were going to do the evaluations for this meeting and give them. I have spoken to all of them. They know where I'm at with them. I submitted them to the HR office. You actually have my copies on there. Now, I took a lot of time in this evaluation. I take these evaluations extremely seriously. So Jeanette, I don't know what to say about Jeanette. I mean, she is just fantastic. Everything she ever does, it's in there, relations with the governing body, conscientious, proactive. Pleasure working with Jeanette for 12 years. Can't imagine anybody being more thorough. As far as her office management and professionalism, her and Kathy, nobody compares to them, hands down. Relations with the public, I don't know anybody who has ever come in contact with Jeanette that had a bad word to say. And extremely always complimentary, helpful.
Hey, none of that.
You know, overall, in the general comments that I had for her, you know, A++, keeps me straight. And, you know, the one thing I discussed with, actually, she has brought it up to me in the past, is a plan of succession when she plans to, of course, she can't leave, I told her that, but, you know, and I mean, because you guys have this stuff in your document, so I'm just, you know, it's, my overall, she's a 5. And, you know, I recommend she gets a 5% increase in her salary. As far as Mr. Anand, that's a character. All right, you know, his relations with the governing body, and of course I can only speak for myself, as you know, he was phenomenal to work with the past couple of years. And I mean, the guy calls me at least 3 times a week, if not 3 times daily. You know, he kept me apprised of all the city matters, and he always discussed the good, the bad, and the potential for any ugly. He knows what he knows, and more importantly, what he doesn't, and is not afraid to seek out an expert. You know, having worked with attorneys for over the last 20 years, he probably has one with the highest integrity that I've worked with. I never heard about a single complaint about Manny by any member of the public. You know, I witnessed his interactions with members of the public at workshops, also during the Charter Review Committee, and he was always extremely professional and gracious. Again, very sad to see Manny go. I would like to make sure that Manny gets retro pay for the time he was here, and my recommendation was 5% for Manny. Now, as far as the city managers, and again, I take this extremely, these evaluations, I put a lot of time, lost a lot of sleep, and I went over, you know, every section, and then there's attached my comments. And they're as follows. The evaluation form consists of 4 sections with questions related to each topic area, which are to be rated on a scale from 1 to 5. For purposes of this rating, a 3 means that you are doing your job and doing it well. 4s and 5s are exceeding expectations and should be followed with comments, examples of events that led to such a higher rating. On the flip side, a rating of 1 or 2 should detail comments, examples where performance did not meet expectations. Having been in management with the military and state government for 30 years, I place an enormous value in rating performance. Section 1 of the evaluation pertains to relations with the governing body. I cannot speak for the rest of the council, only for myself. This has to do with Mr. Carlisle providing information to the board. I do not believe that it is done in a timely manner, and he's not very forthcoming with information. I believe he holds items very close to the vest and does not let us know until it's too late, and he's forced to reveal it. At the February 22nd council meeting, it was not brought to our attention that the strategic plan that was in the making for 4 years was not actually a strategic plan, and that we were way over budget. This city spent $73,000 for nothing. The city manager was aware of this and failed to advise the council of his failure to manage this project as he had outlined its importance to a previous council in 2019 when the taxpayer money was authorized. At the March 8th council meeting, the Stonecrop project was brought to our attention that it would be over $400,000 over budget. The city's 10-year trash contract with Waste Management is expiring, and my belief is that it was brought to the council at the last possible minute. Had the city manager been more proactive, this item could have been brought before the council months ago, and at that time, if we chose to go to a universal option, we could have opted to request a bid for universal city trash pickup, and Sebastian would have received bids from other waste haulers. Sebastian is known as a subscription service city. Communication with the city manager is frustrating, to say the least. Every time I ask about any concerns for agenda items or progress of projects, it is all sunshine and rainbows, or things are out of our control. Section 2 relates to organizational relations and is broken into 3 parts. A, fiscal management. I believe the budget is developed and prepared in a timely manner. However, I think this is more a result of the chief financial officer Ken Kilgore, who runs the process like a well-oiled machine and working in conjunction with the Citizens Budget Review Committee, then the city manager. As far as controlling operational and capital costs, I believe the city manager is failing and previously referenced a strategic plan which was not a strategic $1,000. Providing the council with timely and sufficient reports as they relate to the city's financial status is another shortcoming. Next month will mark 2 years since the city agreed to spend over $700,000 for a stormwater master plan. To the best of my knowledge, the city has received a partial draft, which is going back and forth with our city engineer. Again, this is 2 years for a $700,000 plus project, which initially was thought to take no more than 17 months, and this council has still seen nothing. My concern is the city manager is not driving these projects. He is supposed to have his eye on the ball and keep us up to date on progress and concerns. Personnel management is another area where I believe the city manager is lacking. We recently finished the negotiations with the police union and hopefully will be finalizing negotiations with the employees union. I understand that each entity recently changed unions and leadership. However, these negotiations should have been started long ago and set as a priority by the city manager once they were initiated, and continuous negotiations until finalization, not for as many months as it is taken. I've been a council member for almost 12 years, and prior to Mr. Carlisle, had never received any employee complaints about the city manager. I've received well over a dozen employee complaints, and none of them are willing to put their name to a complaint for fear of retribution from the city manager. Managing the organization. Another area the city manager is failing. Every manager has their own management style, and what works for one may not work for others. Having watched Paul over the years, he tends to have an autocratic style with a tendency to micromanage. This style can work, but one needs to be present and fully engaged. I am surprised that any work in the city of Sebastian is accomplished on Fridays. I like to stop in City Hall on Fridays, and I believe I have caught the city manager there once. It's an open secret that the city manager heads down south or to the West Coast no later than Friday afternoon and sometimes Thursday evening. There appear to be two sets of rules for Sebastian employees. There are rules and expectations for every employee in the city of Sebastian, but they do not pertain to him. He expects the employees to be at their jobs and conducting city business, and yet he does not live by the same. The city manager has been allowed a city vehicle to drive anywhere in the state of Florida for business and personal use as an addendum to his original employee contract from November 28, 2018. There is no logbook associated with this vehicle. Through public records request, I have attempted to develop a logbook for this vehicle. For the years 2020, 2021, and 2022, the city spent over $9,400 in gas for this vehicle, almost $300 for SunPass, and the vehicle has traveled 78,000 miles. According to the recreated logbook, this vehicle is outside the city of Sebastian on approximately 75% of the weekends over the last 3 years. Sebastian pays for Mr. Carlisle to travel to his other homes, and itemized gas receipts support this. Shortly after the city manager started, it came to his attention that a longtime city employee filled up his personal vehicle at the city compound, and he had to let him go. The city manager relayed the situation to me, and I 100% supported these actions. I voted for the addendum to Mr. Carlisle's employee contract, which changed vehicle personal use from 25 miles from Sebastian to anywhere within the state. I never could have imagined it turned into this. What has happened is not illegal, just highly suspect. No other city employee is afforded this benefit. Relationships with the public. I don't even know where to begin with this one. When the city manager first assumed the position, there was an incident down at Captain Hiram's. The city manager called me to apologize, stated that his actions were inappropriate and it would never happen again. A couple of years later, a neighbor of his appeared at a council meeting, and during public input, he outlined his concerns about the city manager. After that meeting, I went by the city manager's house and witnessed everything the gentleman had spoken about for myself. A couple of months ago, that same neighbor sent an email to all the council members expressing much of the same thing and the problems that he was having with the city manager about the manager's boat on the side of the house. The city manager purchased a sign that faced the neighbor's home and basically told him to have a nice day. The city manager displayed inappropriate behavior and zero professionalism at the 2022 Florida League of Cities Conference, which several other council members witnessed. I've had numerous complaints from well-respected members of this city and other citizens regarding the city manager's behavior and actions. They request that their names not be made public for fear of retribution, and the belief that the city council is part of the good old boy network and nothing will happen. Number 4, relations with other governments. One would think that after 5 years on the job, this city manager would have a much better relationship with the county. I know there are difficulties and differences of opinion between the city and county for many issues. However, I feel that Paul should have placed more of a priority on this and more of a presence at county commission and MPO meetings. The 2 annexation processes are an example of this. Paul was only at 1 or 2 of the commission meetings when it was discussed on their agenda, and the county had multiple staff present whenever the annexation was discussed on our agenda. Anybody can show up on someone else's turf during pleasant times. It's when it is difficult or contentious times when a leader really makes their mark. Sebastian requires the city manager to reside in the city of Sebastian. Why is that? I believe it's to make them be invested in our Sebastian, to drive around like the rest of the citizens, see what's working and what's not working. Mr. Carlisle owns a residence in the city of Sebastian, yet he does not truly live here, and that he is not vested in the city of Sebastian, which I believe is indicative of his performance or lack thereof. I view this city council as equivalent to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, with Mayor Jones acting as the Marine Commandant. If that body had a commander who was failing in fiscal management, morale, planning, and relationships with the public, they would not leave that person in command or in a leadership position. If they had a leader who had one set of rules for the troops and another for himself, it would not be tolerated. Any one of the items mentioned is a problem, but the totality of these actions, behaviors, and attitude is way too much for me to continue to support Mr. Carlisle as the city manager for Sebastian. And I make a motion for no confidence in the city manager.
We have a motion.
Yeah.
Is there a second? All right, no second, motion fails. Next, you have more, Mr. McPartland?
I guess need some direction on when we're going to discuss what we're going to give to you to meet with them to renegotiate their contracts.
Right, absolutely. I'm not going to do much because I haven't discussed with the employees, so.
Yeah.
We're talking about bringing back at the next meeting, and we should have all that done by then, the discussion with the charter officers, and then we'll come back at the next meeting. And then that's where we will discuss the renegotiation of the contracts and what you all would like to see me negotiate in those contracts. All right?
I'm fine with that.
All right, good. Any other questions, comments?
Any public?
Anyone from the public would like to speak on this? Anyone on Zoom?
We have one member on Zoom.
Hang on, hold that one on Zoom. We have someone in the audience. Come forward, sir.
Talking about the issue that was just raised, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Jonathan Barquette, and I'm an attorney with Collins Brown Barquette here in the county. Looking around, I actually know a few of you here. And I won't take much of your time, but in light of this motion, I just want to say a few words regarding Mr. Carlisle. I work with a lot of city and county officials in a bunch of counties, and I can tell you without a doubt that Mr. Carlisle is as ethical and upstanding as they come. Myself, members of my firm, several of the engineering firms in Vero, we have lots of projects with the city of Sebastian, and of course that means we work closely with not only Mr. Carlisle, but with Lisa, with Dory, and I can tell you that Paul is tough on applicants, he's tough on my clients. But the reason he's tough is because he's always operating with the best interests of the city in mind. This doesn't always work out in my client's favor. This doesn't always work out with the result that I want, but it is always what's right for the city of Sebastian. And I'd just like to point out one more thing. Many of you will recall that there was an incident not too long ago where some individuals used some highly unorthodox methods to try and rearrange the chairs and the mayor position up there. These actions necessitated scrutiny of the city at the highest level, and the city of Sebastian came through these investigations successfully because of the actions of then Mayor Dodd, Paul Carlisle, and the residents should remember that. Without Mr. Carlisle's actions and ability to handle the situation, things would have gone differently. It's my opinion, and the opinion of all the other professionals that I work with and work with often, that he's an asset to the city. He's not replaceable. And I think it's very important that the council recognizes that before considering a vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We have one person on Zoom.
Yes, we have one person on Zoom.
All right, bring him in.
Ms. Coy, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you very much, Andrea Coy, City of Sebastian. Honorable council members, I sent you all a letter today. I hope you had time to read it. Before I read my letter, how did the previous speaker know there was going to be a motion for a vote by Council Member McPartlin? I'm just curious. Don't expect an answer to that, but boy, that struck me odd. Anyway, honorable council members, my letter to you is not a pleasant one for me to read, but I think the public needs to hear this. Writing the annual charter officer reviews for the 12 years I was on city council was never my favorite thing to do. The exception was always the city clerk, Sally Mayo and Jeanette Williams, who just instinctively always said and did the right things. It's easier to write the nice things rather than to point out the problems. As the only oversight for our charter officers, you are responsible for providing honest assessments of personnel performance, and providing goals and objectives for future improvement. With that in mind, I am hoping that tonight there will be some honest discussion about our city manager's performance over the past year. I am hopeful that you are documenting the wasted $73,000 for a strategic plan that, quote, got away from him, end quote. And what's up with the stormwater master plan? I hope that you have noted his leaving around 4 p.m. many days every week, and how many Fridays he is gone at noon or not present for work at all. I call City Hall every Friday afternoon to check. Do you? It seems to be very well-known secret that he leaves early. Fortunately, you turned down his recent request for an assistant to help with his overwhelming 4 to 4.5 day week. One more piece of dirty laundry worth mentioning concerns his public intoxication. The incident at Captain Hiram's that council was made aware of should have been his wake-up call, but there have been other incidents. Florida League of Cities did not go unnoticed. If you weren't present at the Italian restaurant, you might want to ask him about it. All of these items, if taken individually, might be excusable as a one-off situation. However, when added together, they paint a very unreliable and irresponsible picture of the management of our city. I will be interested to see how you rate this kind of behavior. If 3 is considered average, I think it would be very difficult to justify 4s and 5s. If I can stay awake for this item tonight, I will be reading my comments at the meeting. Sincerely, Andrea Coy. Well, lucky you, I stayed awake. And after listening to tonight's entire council meeting, 2 more items. I mean, I didn't speak on the trash item. That's just another example of time got by, y'all didn't have enough time to deal with the contract negotiation. You have some soul searching to do, the public is becoming aware of how far behind we are. Oh, and these golf carts, overnight, they went bad. It's been a long time since COVID, and they were set aside. I'm sure they just didn't overnight, all those batteries died, and you have to do an emergency purchase. Those things should be routine and should have been noticed a long time ago. And I believe you've received some complaints about it. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I'll say good night for now.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. All right, Mr. Dodd?
I just want to say that I think that the performance attacks are appropriate, but the personal attacks are not. So I think we need to be careful on how that is done. And I firmly believe that if you have an employee, in which, quite frankly, Mr. Carlisle is an employee of the council, if you have an employee then you're unhappy with their performance, which I intend to do when I do evaluation with him, is that one of the objectives that you have is to try to go through a rehabilitation process where you explain what your issues are and so forth. I thoroughly understand Mr. McPartland's frustration. I really do. And I don't disagree with a lot of the things he said. I'm just not prepared to take it into a punitive stage without going through kind of the rehabilitation process. And so I think that's the reason that I think that we need to be careful on how we move forward with this and try to deal with it from that perspective. I don't want anybody to believe that Mr. McPartland was down on left field all by himself, because there are issues that he brought up that are valid and need to be dealt with. So, and I think we can do that as we move forward. Thank you.
I agree with you. There are some issues, and they will be addressed during my time with them. Like I said, I'm not prepared tonight. I am prepared, but I haven't discussed with the employees, so I will not talk about what I haven't talked to them about yet. So, Ms. Dixon, you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm new to this and new to working with Mr. Carlisle. He has been very amenable to me. We have a standing meeting the Monday before council meetings where I have the weekend to go over the agenda and bring questions and ask him what I may have missed. So I think when there's an effort to communicate, he certainly communicates back. We've had several after-hours calls to discuss issues. If I just have a thought in my head and I know it's not going to make it until the Monday meeting, I'll call him and he will always answer. And, but yes, you know, the waste management thing is something that makes me concerned. So, catching up to speed, but it's not all hate up here.
Yeah, no doubt. Mr. McPartland, do you have anything else before I move to the next item on the agenda? No, sir?
You got Mr. Nunn.
Oh.
Did you forget him?
I don't see him, so. His face is not showing on my screen, so. Chris, did you turn your camera off? He's in a hot tub. What is he doing? Is he there?
Can you hear me now?
Vice Mayor, where are you? There you are. All right, let's hear.
So, I would like to say for my record, and I will have my documents reviewed with the city manager and the city clerk before the next meeting as well. But I've dealt with no city managers before Mr. Carlisle. I've dealt with many professional leaders in my time. And I can say from my personal experience, Mr. Carlisle has always been extremely communicative. He's always been very good at responding to my calls and my phone calls and my messages. Feel free, if anyone feels the need to check, go ahead and pull call records. I talk to Mr. Carlisle on average of probably 3 to 5 times per day. Some of those calls are from him to me. Some of those are from me to him. That includes nights and weekends as well. I agree with Ms. Dixon. He always answers my phone call. Are there some issues? There's maybe some small issues, but I've always found in a job that I had that you always take and if you have a problem with somebody's performance, you talk to them about that and you find a plan, you work through it, you work with that employee. You don't wait years to have a conversation and then get up and throw them under the bus completely without ever having a plan for improvement. I talk to Mr. Carlisle frequently, so if I have something that I disagree with him on or I think that he's not doing, I tell him at the time. I say, I'm not liking this. What can you do to help me fix it? And I think that's what a good boss is supposed to do. And as Mr. Carlisle's boss, as the 5 council members we are, it is our job to constantly work with him as he works with us. Just my professional opinion. That's all I have on this topic for now.
All right. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I want to comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't get to talk to you guys unless we're up here.
Yep, yep.
You know, and this came up because I can't even remember how many months ago when I talked about the communication problems I was having with Mr. Carlisle. And I have come in. And again, I've been in management for 30 years. There's nobody like Mr. Carlisle here. I mean, I called him. I said, what's on the agenda? What concerns do we have? This goes back to the one with the strategic plan. I knew the strategic plan was on there. I knew about it, what it was. And I said, Mr. Carlisle, what do we have on this agenda coming this time? And he said, oh, we got the 2 car washes. I said, are you sure that's it? There is nothing else I need to know about what's happening there. And again, everything I wrote down, I discussed with him Friday. Okay? And this is, I have come in. But I don't want to say he lies to me, but he's deceptive. And he does not give me information. So I could call him all day long, and if I'm not getting what I need, I go down and see Mr. Kilgore. I mean, these things, you know, with the car. I mean, nobody has a problem with this? Then, all right, I won't ask another thing. That's it. I'm just pointing out, but it's not for lack of trying that I have not tried to talk to him. I know what he tells people. He tells them, I call that guy all the time. He doesn't call me back. He'll leave me a message that doesn't say anything and not ask for a return call. Because I brought up to him, I says, did you text me? Did you see me at a council meeting and say, hey, we need to sit down and do this? No. But when I talk to him, he's not forthcoming with the information. And so for people saying that, I asked him Friday, how does this go? Is it all me or all you? Am I supposed to communicate with you, or is it your job to communicate with me? And I was pretty clear with him is that when he communicates with me, he's not telling me anything. So where do I go from there? And that's what I did tonight. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you. I think we've covered that enough. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, is item number 13, City Attorney Matters. Mr. Mai.
Thank you, Mayor. Just getting my feet wet with this fine city, and been working well with the manager and also with a number of you, and look forward to working with the different department heads, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with everyone.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Carlisle.
Just one thing that we didn't have on the announcement. Tomorrow night at 6 to 8, the Fish and Wildlife Conservation is going to be here to talk about snook rules. They're looking at dividing it up into more districts and more zones. So the public, if you want to get involved in our snook rules, they need to be here for that. Other than that, I have nothing else.
And that's at 6 o'clock, right?
6 o'clock.
Fish and Wildlife will be in here. Okay, I need to get a license. Sorry. City Clerk Matters. Oh, you're always so quiet, Jeanette. Council Matters, Vice Mayor Nunn.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to say thank you to our staff. As always, they are on top of things, getting things taken care of. Jeanette doesn't have much to say up there, but Jeanette is always on top of things. I can only imagine that she took the shoes from Sally Mayo and excelled with it, no doubt. Just a wonderful clerk. Thank you to Paul Carlisle for being an amazing city manager. Hey, nobody's perfect. We're all not perfect. We all have opportunity to fix things. I think our city is in great hands. I'm very happy with our city council and how it's moving forward. Something to think about from the solid waste perspective. By moving to a subscription option in the future, cost our taxpayers themselves an extra $900,000 a year. That's 9,000 subscribers at $100 a year is 900,000. So just understanding that's a huge chunk of money we're asking our city residents to pay, and that's why I think those of us that chose Universal is one of the reasons we chose it. But we're going to have more discussion about that. We're going to look at things because the whole tax collector not being able to collect fees throws a big nasty into that whole thing. So I guess we'll have to figure that out. As always, thank you. I'm in Key West, so I'm sorry I'm not at the meeting this week, but I could not be here and do my job tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Enjoy your time down there. Ms. Dixon.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Dodd.
I don't want to beat it to death, but what the Vice Mayor just said about the $900,000 to our residents resonates to me very strongly. But the $600,000 or $700,000 cash outflow that the city will have because we didn't process this quick enough to get it into the rolls for 2023 is a gigantic stickler in my craw. And that's the reason that I brought it up and the reason that I took the action I did this evening. And we need to be very cognizant of the fact that we can't afford to lose $600,000 or $700,000 because of a timing incident. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Mr. McPartland, do you have anything?
The only thing is, Friday morning, I was down in Martin County for the Treasure Coast Homeless Services Council, and they finished the point-in-time count, which is the homeless. They go out for one 24-hour period at the end of January. And it was, I guess, heartbreaking to see is that Indian River County had more homeless people than St. Lucie County. And there was an increase of about 40% of veterans that are homeless.
Wow.
I left my actual numbers in the car, but just to throw it out is that if, St. Lucie is roughly twice our size, so they should have twice as many homeless, and we have more than St. Lucie County, which is concerning.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
All right, and I have nothing further, so this meeting is adjourned.